achieve, or we commonly achieve a goal, a common goal, or their own personal goal.
Hmm. So to be able to achieve a common goal and their personal goals is what empowerment means to you. Yes, Amit.
Giving
Yeah.
them the resources and information, clarity.
Right, right. Well
Uh,
said. Agreed. Yes, Amit.
okay. Yeah. So for me, empowerment is basically when you can give someone something, or it can be anything. Basically, it is the power of giving. That is what I feel. Whether it is a smile or happiness, or it can be into small things. You don't need to be very large to be empowered. I feel a small thing. Making a child laugh or smile is one of the biggest empowerment one can have.
Hmm.
It gives it gives them gives that a smile, and makes them happy. You can just go to an orphanage, just distribute 100 rupee chocolate to them, the
Hmm.
small eclairs.
Hmm.
Yeah, they will be happy like anything, and that
Hmm.
is empowerment when you have the power to give. That is what my way of empowerment is. I mean, when you give somebody, that is what empowers you.
Ah, okay. So when you give something to somebody, it empowers you.
Yes, whether it can
And
be a smile,
hmm,
it can be a smile. You just cross and you just smile somebody, you just smile at somebody.
hmm,
It will empower them. It will cheer them up, right? Won't it?
hmm, hmm,
It makes somebody's day. You don't
hmm,
have to necessarily be monetized.
hmm,
It can be
hmm.
knowledge. It can be it can be happiness,
Experience.
smile,
Absolutely.
anything, anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you are in a
Absolutely.
position to give, that is what empowerment is. I think everybody would agree with that, right?
Yes, I would agree with that. I'm sure others will agree as well. So it's about unleashing other people's power by sharing what you can share in terms of your knowledge, your experience, in terms of motivating them. And that's what empowerment and empowering people really
Anything which you
means.
can give. That's that.
Right. Thanks for sharing, Amit.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Hi, Yukti. Can I share my views, please?
yeah, sure, please.
Yeah. My name is Saurav. I'm working with a bank in Abu Dhabi, UAE, which is Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank. My view is that empowerment signifies freedom, the freedom to voice one's opinion or perspective without the fear of criticism.
Correct.
So if I'm working in an organization and I, or for any other, for that purpose, any other employee,
Hmm,
and we feel that we have a particular view about a subject,
hmm.
if we have the freedom and authority to voice our views or concerns, then I think that is empowerment.
Wonderful, wonderful. So when you have the autonomy to be who you are and share your views is empowerment for you.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Great. Great sharings there. And I think we're all absolutely on the same page on what empowerment really means. So let's go a little deeper into empowerment and see what more can we learn about empowerment and how can we really bring this learning to practice. So give me a moment to just share my screen quickly. May I request you all to please put yourself on mute, and I will invite you to unmute and share uh, during the session. All right, can you see my screen? Just give me a thumbs up, please, if you can. So can I get a yes in the chat box? Okay, okay, wonderful. All right, I'm just going to close all these secret conversations, which will open up for you in a bit. All right, so let us understand the barriers. We all know what empowerment means really well. So let's not expand that understanding because the understanding is not in the definition. The understanding will be in the application of empowerment. And let me also prepare you for what we're going to do at the second half of this session. We're going to dive into a lot of self-reflection. Okay, so what I want you to do and encourage you to do right now is really listen to what is being shared here, and for a minute really keep aside what I call as a baggage of success. Those who attended my session before already know what I would ask you to do next. So very quickly, I want you to write down 3 numbers before we get started, and these 3 numbers will make space for some interesting unlearning and relearning that we're going to do in the session. Okay, so these 3 numbers very quickly are: number 1, your age; Don't get passionate about it, and don't also get personal about it. It's just a number. Okay, don't judge yourself for that number. So it's your age. The second number I want you to put down is your total years of experience. So if you're someone like me who's plunged into entrepreneurship after some corporate experience, then put all that experience together into one big number that it is for you. And the third one is your salary or turnover if you run your own company. Now, please use decimals so that that big figure can fit into your piece of paper. But let's put these three numbers down and very dispassionately but respectfully fold this chit now. So Gaurav, I don't see you doing this. We've got to do this. Trust me, this is going to create the space that we need. Okay, when all these three numbers are there and you folded this into a chit, please say done in the chat box and I'll know that we're ready. Done? Okay. Can we quickly see those chits if possible? If you could just show me how small can that look. So someone once told me that you cannot fold a piece of paper more than 8 times. I've been trying to do that. So tell me if you can, okay? I think there is some logic behind that you can't. Deepa has become an expert at it. She's attended a lot of my sessions. So each time I see her chit, it is shrinking, which is very good. Good job again, Deepa. Can I see your chit, Gaurav, Saurav Anand? Oh, wonderful, Saurabh. How did you do that? That is amazing. Gaurav, this is too big, too big. We need to make it much smaller. Anyone else up for the challenge? Sorry?
I've tiered the page.
Oh, you just tore it away?
Yeah.
All the experience and all that great money gone? Okay, okay. I wish that was the case, really. Of course, it's going nowhere. It's something that you have achieved and you should take absolute pride in that. But the reason why I want you to put this chit aside now, very nice, Girish. Now, let's just physically put this chit behind you. And Deepa has done that already. She knows exactly what needs to be done with this chit. So I want you to physically turn back and put this chit behind you, because now what you have done through this gesture is created space to really learn. When we are in the learning environment, we are often judging what more can you offer to me? What is it that I don't know? You know, what is it that someone who's not as old as me is going to tell me, or not as rich as me is going to tell me, or not as experienced as me is going to tell me? And that is where the learning really stops. And trust me, the fact that you are here, you're not somebody who thinks like that. You definitely don't have the mindset. But unknowingly, a lot of our mental space is taken away with such beliefs. So let us not allow our success of our baggage of success to come in the way. Thank you so much for your fantastic participation. Let us now get into the 3 big barriers of empowerment. When we are trying to empower people, what really comes in our way? And in my understanding, there are 3 things that really come in our way. The biggest one is the desire for job security, which means this fear that if I let go everything that I know, then I will become so dispensable. Like, why will I be needed in the system if I can make somebody as good as me? And let us be really, really honest in this session to our own selves, because we have no one to impress over here. We have no points to prove at all. I want you to use your notebook to really write down whatever you're realizing through this session and this discussion. So see to what extent does this come in your way, that I'm a great person. I'm very open-minded. I can teach you 70%, 80% of what I know, but I'm still not comfortable giving away 100%, every bit of what I know. That sense of insecurity rules our mind sometimes when we are trying to empower others. The second thing that comes in our way is resistance to change. And change is something that's absolutely unavoidable when you are empowering people, because empowerment in itself will ensure there is change. What empowerment brings with it is innovation. And innovation will challenge the status quo, which means that whatever is being done for all this while, whether it is working well or not, will get questioned when you start empowering people. Are you ready to bring in that change? Are you ready to face the change? Now, it is a very fancy word. It is a fad in the on corporate floors. Everybody likes these terms like change management, change agent, and so on and so forth. But what we need to do is make this session very, very real and put your hand on your heart and say, am I really open to change? Do I like change? And what is the evidence that I can think of which tells me that yes, I do like change? Is it just something that is in my knowing because it's a good thing to do? Or is there some evidence that I can create by going back to some experience in the past where I can show myself that, see, I encouraged change here and I embraced it when that happened? Are you able to go back to any such story in your life? I want you to answer that to yourself and maybe make a quick pointer or use some keywords to remind yourself of that story. And if there is no story coming to your mind, then I want you to put a question mark there to see what you want to do and how you want to come back to this point of embracing change. And the third barrier that comes in our way is lack of self-worth. When I don't think I have enough power in me, then I don't think I can empower anyone else anyway. So whatever is in me is what I can offer to people. Do I value myself enough to know that I am powerful? And only then am I in a position to empower anybody else. So where does my self-worth really lie? In my own mind, through my own actions, through my own set of beliefs. What is my sense of self-worth? It is one or a combination of these three factors that really stops us from empowering people as much as intellectually we might be open to it. So at this point, I want to share a story of Henry Ford. I'm sure you all have heard of Henry Ford. It is the biggest automobile company in the American business history. And whenever we talk about leadership, there is always a reference to Henry Ford, isn't it? Right. So while we might want to look at that as a great case study in terms of some good practices in business parlance, it is also a great case study to understand how great corporate enterprises can fail themselves if they don't understand this law of empowerment. So Henry Ford co-founded this company, Ford Motors, in 1903. And he started it really, really well with some great ideas and finally put together, a model called Model T at that time. By 1914, I think this became a real hit. And they were capturing 50% of the market with just this one model called Model T. Now, what happened after this huge success was that Henry Ford got very emotional about this creation and considered this to be a success that needs to be protected and maintained at where it is, and hence closed doors to any new ideas. In fact, when a group of designers from his company showed him a prototype of an improved version of Model T, he literally ripped that prototype apart with his own hands, saying that don't disturb a success story. We've created something here. We are a huge success. We're looked up to, and we have 50% of the market. Don't disturb anything. This is how it is going to be. He became so paranoid about this success and managing and protecting this success that he was absolutely okay to let go of some great leaders that he had hired, which in fact resulted in such a success, right? But the moment somebody tried to disturb the equation, he didn't think twice before letting them go or undercutting them within the organization to take away their voice. Okay, it was as late as 1927 when finally another model was launched, which is the Model A, and again a success, but not such a roaring success. Now, by this time, you've realized that the morale of the organization has gone to dogs, right? People are scared to come up with suggestions. They don't want to look at improved versions because it is not being encouraged as a culture in the organization. As a result of which, by 1931, their market share was down to 28%. Now, this is when people hopefully started looking at his son, Edsel, who was at that time a young guy, but he was included in the business very early in his age and slowly started getting more active, and he saw that Henry Ford, the father of this creation, is actually also the reason why the company is coming down from 50 to 28%. And so with his active involvement, he could win some confidence from Henry Ford. Long story short, he got active in the business, and people started looking at some hope, some ray of light, somebody who's allowing them some space to breathe. But in the process, many people also lost their motivation, left the company. Those who stayed back hoped that Henry Ford will die soon and Edsel will, take the throne and we will be living happily ever after. Unfortunately, anticlimax, Edsel lost his life at the age of 49, and people were back to Henry Ford until Edsel's son, Henry Ford II, took over. Again, long story short, Henry Ford II was no different from Henry Ford himself. He did start very well by bringing in great leaders from the market, especially from General Motors. He got in a great leader in Breach. He also got in a great leader from the army background, defense background, called Colonel Thornton. They were amazing leaders who created more leaders in the company and took the company again up. By 1949. Ford was back to being on the map. They got at such a level that they could actually manufacture 1 million cars in a year. This is when empowerment became a big challenge for Henry Ford II again in this company. So when these leaders who were powerful leaders, who were brought from the market, who were brought from General Motors, who were brought from the defense and were great leaders in World War II as well, they became so popular and influential in the company that Henry Ford II started feeling the sense of insecurity. And that is when he undercut his own people, started pitting them against each other, and in fact, openly started suggesting to his core team that you should never make people comfortable. Always catch them off balance, always create anxiety in the team and keep them off balance, because the moment they get comfortable, they will become a threat to you. And that's when it got doomed and General Motors took over. If a company as big as this, with a lineage as strong as that, can slip, not realizing how they are in fact demotivating their people instead of empowering, I want us to really question on where we are and how are we dealing with empowerment. Are we actually bringing our knowing to action? Because trust me, if I were to invite Henry Ford to a session like this, with all humbleness, if he would have accepted to be here, he would have been the first one to say, I'm doing all of this really well. In fact, I take sessions with my core team and tell them to do exactly this, but we have enough story and evidence and data to prove that that's not been brought to action. So knowing is one thing, and bringing it to action is the other. What I want you to drop is your knowing, because that's not enough. What are we acting upon is the question. So what are the barriers that you are facing in your leadership is what I want you to highlight. And when we end this session, I'll give you a very clear action plan on how to work on those barriers. It could be 1, 2, or all 3 of them. All right. So why don't we quickly just check in the chat box, which one is a barrier for you? Are you comfortable sharing? Because you should be. If you're openly able to say, this is what I need to look at, I am really sure that you will. So what do you think is really coming in your way? Is it the first, second, or third? Is it security, change, or self-worth, or a combination? What is it for you? I'm just waiting to see some response in the chat room. Which barrier have you highlighted for yourself? Okay, resistance to change, 1 and 2, none. Okay, maybe there's a 4th barrier, because I'm sure there is something we can definitely work on to get to the next level. 2nd and 3rd, Govind, okay, lack of self-worth. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being so honest about it. Great, so I'm going back to sharing because it wasn't letting me see the chat box. All right, now with that, let us see what is the process of empowerment. Very simple 5-step process, simple. Knowing is simple. Bringing it to action might not be. So let us see what it means to bring it to action in a bit. So first thing, identify your leaders. Identify people who have the potential to lead. I am sure you understand that leadership is not about the role, it is about the attitude that people have. Do they have the attitude to take initiatives? Do they have the attitude to be inclusive, to take people with them? We understand what are the key leadership qualities that we all look out for. So are you able to identify leaders from your group? If you are, then are you building them up? And when you are building them up, I want you to consciously look at 3 elements of building up your leaders. Number 1, are you working on their self-development? Which means if communication is a problem, you're working on communication. If English is a problem, if etiquette is a problem, if courtesy is a problem, if email writing is a problem, managing stakeholders is a problem, what is their self-development goal in your mind? And do you have a plan for that? Are you building them up on their self-development? Second, are you building them up on their leadership skills, their ability to create leaders? What is missing in that equation? Do you identify that? And once you've identified, do you have a plan to build it up for them? And the third is their subject matter expertise. And I consciously put that at the end, because the fact that you're looking at them as leaders means you're actually looking at them at a level where they will get the work done from people. So there is a study done that proves that it's only 15% of our success that is related to our technical skills. 85% is people skills, simply because at a certain level from mid-management onwards, our only job is to get work done from people. So if that's our only job, then that doesn't include too much technical know-how. You are already on top of your technicalities, and that's how you've risen up the corporate ladder, right? So are you able to identify these three areas and building up your team on their self-development, leadership skills, and subject matter expertise? The third step in this process of empowering people is to now give them resources. You've identified them, you're building them up, and now you have to give them resources, which means you give them the time to learn, to come up the learning curve, you give them a team, and you give them technology. All three things. Are you giving them enough time, your time to mentor them, their time to learn and practice, make mistakes and learn from it? Are you giving them team, and are you giving them technology support? When you're giving them these resources, you are in the process of empowering them, but not yet. There is a fourth step to it. And the fourth step is now giving them the authority, letting them decide a few things and giving them the comfort to make a few wrong decisions, holding back a plan that will help you to keep the heat away from the entire project, right? So the consequences should not be such a dire strait that it affects all of us and takes us down. So to what extent can you create boundaries? I'm going to get to that when I talk about method. But giving them authority and then letting them loose, giving them a little play area to practice all of what they have learned, use the resources skillfully, and apply the authority that you are giving them, right? Giving them an opportunity to put their act together and play. These are the 5 critical steps to follow, in my view, pretty much in the same sequence instead of a random sequence. You need to first identify the leaders, build them up, then give them resources, then authority, and then let them loose. So this is a simple process of empowerment. No rocket science, but are we really doing this? Are we really building them up on all 3 areas? Are we giving them resources, including a team, or are we expecting, one person to become a hero? So at this point, I really want to make this one segregation between a leader and a hero. Now, when we are imagining a leader, we pretty much imagine like a cape and, some superpowers that this person has. And when this charismatic person comes in the whole room lights up, and there is something so enigmatic and spiritual about this being that he alone can conquer the world. But tell me any one person who comes to your mind who's been able to conquer the world alone. There is always an army of people behind a face. There could be one face, but there is an army behind that face that makes everything possible. Wherever you are is because of many people behind you who are making things possible. Wherever I am is because of people who've done what they've done and they're doing behind me. So when we are trying to build leaders, which could be a very, detailed separate webinar, sometime we'll plan this as well. But very quickly, one point I want to bring to your consciousness is building leaders is not about looking for a hero. Building leaders is about looking for somebody who has the ability to build more leaders. And that comes when they have the humility and wisdom to understand that they alone will never be enough. It always requires a team for us to make any success story. And that success has to be shared by the entire team. So are you giving them the resource of a team? Or are you trying to squeeze whatever you can from that one resource and then putting a gun on their head and saying, act like a leader? Yeah, so what are we doing? Where are we in this process? What do we need to learn from this process? I want you to take a minute and put down your action plan. What is your intent now after having understood this sequence and knowing that there is actually a certain method here, certain steps to follow? Which particular step resonates with you? Where do you think you need to pay more attention? Which part of the process is unconsciously, unknowingly missed out? let's put that down on paper. I'm absolutely happy to see some sharings here in the chat room if you're comfortable, but it's important that you take that 1 minute and process this process before we get into the method. All right. So there is a method. There is a method to learn how to empower our people even more. We've got the barriers. We know where we're stuck. We know the process and the 5 steps that we need to put together to empower people. Is there a method of doing it? And yes, there is. And this is a great set of 3 things that we should look at, being shared by Ken Blanchard. I totally look up to for anything when it comes to leadership. And he beautifully puts these points together, saying that first thing we have to do to empower people is to share information with others. I, in my own experience, in my corporate experience, have faced a lot of leaders and bosses who have been extremely uncomfortable to share information. And they have come from a certain mindset which makes them believe that only as much as needed should be shared. It's a direct function of how much are you able to trust people. The more my leaders, my bosses share information with me, the more it makes me feel like I'm being trusted. And the more you trust me, the more you make me feel accountable for that information I hold now. You with me? So when you are sharing information, you're also actually encouraging people to be more accountable. And we keep wondering how to make them more accountable. People are not accountable. People don't take ownership. My team is not taking ownership. But the question is, what are you doing as a leader? Are you really sharing all the information? Or are you holding it back? Why are you withholding information if you are? What are you not trusting? What do you think can go so wrong that you are not able to share information? So it not only builds trust, but when you're sharing information, you're also promoting organization learning. And you do that in 3 simple ways. You seek knowledge, which means through feedbacks, through customer interactions, through stakeholder interactions, you seek knowledge about what needs to be improved about your organization, your product, your offering. You also create a method, a process to transfer knowledge so that knowledge is not recreated each time people move in and out of the organization. Is there a way to capture our learning and pass that learning on to a new set of people who will take the mantle forward? So are we creating a system to transfer knowledge? And are we consciously making our own knowledge obsolete? Before others do that to us, before the competition makes me obsolete, am I making my own knowledge obsolete and looking for more knowledge, learning more about what I already know? These are the 3 ways in which we ensure we're promoting organizational learning, which is a part of sharing information. So I know of many leaders who have a certain structure around their reviews, their team reviews, where a part of that review is dedicated only and only to sharing knowledge, and it is done in a circle. You're not sitting this way. I'm facing you because I'm your leader. I will talk and you will listen. We are all in a circle, and everybody is sharing something recent. They've read recently, they've learned recently, the course, a new course they're doing, which has helped them, a new book that they're reading, a new article that's been published and read by them, and what have they learned. And that is called as a learning circle. Do you have a learning circle? Are you encouraging a learning circle? Is there a learning space within your team? And if not, then what can you do to create it immediately? Because that is what sharing information really means. The second method of empowering people is to create freedom through boundaries. Now imagine how interesting is this. It could sound ironic, but it isn't. It actually goes together. It's like being on the tennis court. You know, there are boundaries on tennis court, and yet there is enough freedom there to play your game. And each player plays in his or her own style and becomes a champion, right? So you don't hear any player saying, "Arey, ye line badhao. I'm a senior person. I'm a Grand Slam. Okay, now this can't be the court for me. It has to look different." But that is the court. That is your boundary. Now, within the boundary, how do you enhance your ability? How do you become a champion? How do you raise the bar? Having said that, in a leadership space, boundary should be imagined like a rubber band. It should have some bit of elasticity. But to what extent it gets stretched is a function of your skill set and evidence of accountability, which means when you were given the space, what did you do with that? Empowerment gives you the freedom, but it also gives you the accountability for your actions. Are you able to stick to that accountability? Have you been able to demonstrate higher level of accountability with higher level of empowerment that has come your way? So creating freedom through boundaries is first about creating a compelling vision, which means telling people, boss, ye ek bada picture hai. This is what it looks like. And you are an important piece of this jigsaw. But every jigsaw piece also has its own boundary, right? And that is how it beautifully fits into each other and creates a beautiful big picture. So knowing that I'm a part of a big jigsaw and knowing that without me, this jigsaw is incomplete is enough for me to understand how important I am in the bigger scheme of things. So creating that compelling vision and at the same time telling them that boundaries need to be respected and appreciated. And also the fact that these are going to increase as we go and grow in our career and our experience together. So the second thing you do is you set goals. Now, I don't have to get into SMART goals with leaders like you in the room. I know you understand what SMART goals means. You create SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, accountable, time-bound, and realistic. And make sure that these goals are just milestones. There is no goal that needs to be engraved on stone. That was, this is how it is, and this is what will remain your goal forever. It's a milestone. You achieve this goal, we raise the bar for you. You achieve this goal, we raise the bar for you. So as long as they are goals which are aspirational but realistic at the same time can be accomplished, we need to put that out and clearly communicate to people. So these are the boundaries and how we are extending the boundaries. You see how we are stretching this as a rubber band. The third thing is decision-making rules, making it very clear that when you are a team member, you take operational decisions. When you are a team leader, you take strategic decisions. And there is a reason why we do this. So if at an operational level, you're taking decisions and you are accountable for the results, you are growing slowly towards taking strategic decisions. And we are wanting to welcome you in that space. You with me? Instead of saying, boss, I mean, nobody consults me for anything anyway. I'm just told what to do. If you are just told what you have to do, what will be your sense of ownership for that task? Imagine that. If in this webinar, instead of coming willingly, your boss would have put a gun on your head. Now imagine this, okay? It's a Saturday, 5 o'clock. And your boss says, you have to attend this leadership webinar every Friday, 5 o'clock. And at the end, give me a one-pager on what you've learned. We paid for these webinars. What will be your ownership towards your learning in this session? What will be your willingness to learn, to be here and to participate? Much lower, right? Because now it is not your thing at all. It was not your decision. Decision making is a great way to empower people. What we need to understand is, can we bring in the transparency to help people appreciate the level at which we are asking them to make decisions? You with me? Tell them that this is where we are. These decisions are also important, but we will curtail it. The boundary is here and the boundary is stretchable. It is elastic and it will grow as you will grow in your learning. The fourth thing is appraisal processes. Are we asking them to perform their task the way we want and hence we will tell you how good you are? Or is our appraisal process flattened further and allows them to not just self-appraise? I remember in my first job also as an MD, in my appraisal discussion, there was a page, one full page on self-appraisal, where I had to appraise myself, my performance. Okay, and I thought I was very good. So everything 5 on 5, 5 on 5, 5, I did really well. But in that entire discussion, that self-appraisal page was just flipped through. All right, next. I wish there was a little conversation there, which could have then helped me to be more honest and sensible about how should I look at my own performance, instead of not giving any weightage to that section at all. So is that just a section, or is that part of our discussion? Are we allowing people to be realistic? Are we allowing people to have their voice on their own performance or not? And from there comes the sense of empowerment. As someone was sharing at the beginning of the session, if I have the freedom to share my views, I feel empowered. And imagine not having that power when it comes to your own performance. If you're not allowing it there, then we're taking away a huge opportunity to bring in that sense of empowerment. And lastly, continuous learning. Skill needs to be developed with a continuous conscious learning plan. And empowering people is a skill. Leadership is a skill. Now, what has happened to most of us, I'm pretty sure all of us, but one or two might be an exception in the room here. What has happened to most of us is that we have just stumbled over a leadership role. Okay, we were doing very well where we were in our career, and then somebody identified, spotted us, and said that, boss, this person is good. Let us elevate this person's designation. And with that elevation came 5 people who are junior, and then that 5 became 15, that became 50, that became 500, and we kept growing up this pyramid. Right? And as we were growing up, we were only given more and more responsibilities. But was there a structured learning of what leadership really means? I doubt if any of us have really gone through that. We've definitely gone through a lot of product learning, process learning, a lot of all of that. But has someone put us in a classroom before we were leading even one more person other than us, saying, boss, let me first tell you what leadership means, because there is a certain science to it, there is a method to it, it is a skill that needs to be worked upon. I am glad that people with pedigrees such as yours are open and humble to be in this room to relook at their understanding of leadership, because that's what we really got to do. And we've got to do it as often as we can. In fact, we need to bring a conscious learning plan to back this up and not just wait for some random invitation that we can make time for. What is my conscious learning plan? Do you have one for yourself? I'm posing this question and I want you to answer in your piece of paper. What is my conscious learning plan? Have I signed up for a leadership course? Have I signed up for any networking platform which challenges my leadership ability? Have I signed up for some kind of a book membership or some kind of a conversation or some internal review where we are sharing knowledge and learning from each other? What have I signed up for as my conscious learning plan? Because if I'm not able to do that for myself, it will be tough for me to plan it for my team. And that will give them a sense of empowerment. So that's creating freedom through boundaries. And lastly, shifting from a hierarchy, that pyramid thought process, to a flat structure. That's how startups work and unicorns get created, right? So these startups work well because it's a flat structure. You are a peon and you are a CEO, not because you can't hire 50 people. Even when you have 50 people, that's where you are. It's a mindset shift. It's a mindset shift from thinking that, now if I'm growing, I'm not going to get my own coffee, or, okay, you know what? I'm a CEO and I still get my own coffee. And that is the epitome of humility for me. It doesn't end there. It doesn't even start there, right? Am I creating a structure where my team doesn't have to run to me for everything, which means moving from hierarchy to self-direction by creating self-directed individuals and self-directed teams. Self-directed individuals means giving them some discretionary power. Like Ritz-Carlton is a hotel that's looked up to, right, for their standards. And they have given discretion to their frontline staff to the extent of $2,000 to enhance customer experience. And $2,000 is not such a small amount, right? But they have this money at their discretion, no questions asked, if it is used to enhance customer experience. Are we able to trust the ability of our teams to some extent by giving them some discretionary powers where everything is not controlled by me? I'm not holding all strings and they're not just puppets. They are real people I have developed, I have built, and now I trust. And self-directed teams means having the ability as a team to raise your own morale. Are we able to get them out of their rigid 3 things to do and their rigid and tightly defined job descriptions to really giving them the ability to enhance value, add value to their own teams and other teams? Maybe through learning, maybe through training others, maybe through contributing to other teams, cross-functional initiatives, cross-functional projects. How are we ensuring that we are not getting confined into the pyramid, the hierarchy, and setting ourselves only in that little triangle? How are we breaking the walls at a higher level in the organization and creating a flat structure where there's more air to breathe and there is more scope to feel empowered and further empower other people? So I'll take a quick pause here to see what's going on there with you. Which of these methods is resonating really well? What is staying back from this with you? What are you really going to dive into? Is there something that you just like itching to just dive into and fix this part quickly? Okay, so I have a question here from Govin. I'll take this up, and it says, what if we have identified someone who has qualities of a leader, but there is trust issue? Great, Govin. So building trust is a 2-part series that we just completed last Wednesday was the second part of that workshop we did, and I'll very soon relaunch it. I mean, I'm going to put this out again, but there is a way to build trust. There is a way to know where we are in terms of our trust levels, and from there take it to another level. So I'm glad that you've identified trust to be an issue, which in itself is a great victory, because we're not able to do that. We are not able to see that the real issue here is trust. But if that is the real issue, we need to work upon that first before we're able to empower them, because that entire process that you will follow will only be a tick in the box if you are lacking that level of trust. So trust is the foundation of leadership, no questions asked. It's only after you build that foundation can we talk about empowering people. So I would urge you to look at that first. Maybe we can connect, and I'll keep you posted on our next workshop on trust, because it'll take me a long time to really answer what we can do. There are ways to deal with that. Sure. So, all right. So where are we? What are our takeaways? Let's just have something in the chat box. Tell me, what are you taking away from the 3 methods that I just shared with you, or from the process of empowerment? So Supriya says, I think along with giving them authority, we need to allow them to take responsibility for success as well as failure. Absolutely. Absolutely, Supriya. Like I said a while back, empowerment is about giving people the freedom, at the same time holding them accountable for the results. But as I always say, leadership is the toughest thing to do, because what's unfair is that when everything goes right, you need to look outside the window and find others to give credit to. Most of the times it should be your team. And when things go wrong, you have to stand in front of the mirror and find out what you could have done better. So when things go wrong, you're right in front of the line. And when things go right, you're right behind your team, letting them take the credit. Right? So unfair, but that's what a leader has to do. And hence it's not easy to be a leader. Conscious learning plan, Ram is taking away. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ram. Chandra, level play with boundaries. Yeah, it is so fascinating to get this balance right, you know, between freedom, creating freedom within boundaries and allowing the boundaries to be extended. Okay, we need to put them in situation and see how they perform to get best out of them. Absolutely, Praveen. And also supporting them while they're at it, without giving them a feeling of being judged, without giving them the scare that if you fail and if you slip, then that's it. So how do we plan this space? It needs to be planned. Processes, follow the order. Fantastic. The empowerment process, you mean, Girish? Great. Okay, Saurabh says creating freedom through boundaries is critical. Leaders need to define goal clearly and guide their team on their progress along the way with constant feedback. Perfect. Well said. Bury the pyramid, a flat structure. I like it, Chandra. Straight to the point. Just bury it. It doesn't work. We know it doesn't work, but we somehow follow it. Okay, fantastic. I love what we see here. Great sharing, everyone. Thank you so much. Sharing information with team without leakage is important. Very, very important, Weber. That's a great and important and integral part of building trust. Okay, so let's go back to self-reflection. Are we ready? Are we ready to self-reflect? Just say, bring it on. I love this, bring it on. Okay, it makes me feel younger. Millennials talk like this. So I'm just trying to be a little wannabe millennial. And I love saying, bring it on, BIO, BIO, bring it on. Tell me what self-reflection I need to do. It's a great time to do it. This is a weekend. And I want to do some self-reflection so that from Monday, I am at another elevated level of my leadership. Let's see who all are hungry for this. Deepak says, BIO, bring it on. Girish, Shailesh, thank you. Praveen, bring it on. Others? Say BIO, let me know that you're hungry. I have some delicious food to serve here. So show me your hunger. Show me your hunger. Say BIO. BIO, bring it on. Fantastic. BIO. Okay, I like that, Sadik. Yes, BIO, BIO. All right, if you insist, let me bring it on. All right, so I am taking you back to the barriers. And if you remember, I had requested you to highlight which particular barrier is coming in your way. So here is a little dose for you to think about to break that barrier. So let's first talk about self-worth. If I feel powerless, I'm not in a position to enhance anybody else's power. I want you to Imagine a scale of 10, 1 to 10. There's never a 0. In my view, we're never on a 0. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, please self-assess yourself on these 3 questions. The first question is, are you confident? Are you confident? There's a little typo there. Let's just correct that. Are you confident? To what extent do you feel confident about yourself? Are you confident? The second question that I want you to look at is, do you believe you have value? Do you believe there is any value you can add to people around you? Can you add value? And do you believe that you can? And the third question is, are you willing to take risks? How risk averse are you? And how open to risks are you? So if you're very open to risk, you'll be on a 7, 8, or 9, or I don't know what 10 means really. And if you're risk averse, then you're on a 2 or a 1 or a 3. So when you do this self-assessment, see what it adds up to, and where do you think you stand in terms of self-worth on a total possible score of 30. And that will be a great way for you to know to what extent do you need to look at self-worth. And there's a certain plan that we can create, by the way. I would love to connect with you later to help you with that if you would like, to see how we can raise the bar here, because that's where everything is blocked. If we don't believe in ourselves, we are very limited to adding value to others and empowering others. So let's first empower ourselves, and that's where self-worth is. The second barrier we talked about was change, resistance to change. So here is what I want you to look at. These 3 questions will tell you how open you really are. So do you believe in people? If you have direct teams, do you really believe in your team? Do you believe in them? To what extent? Again, on a scale of 10. To what extent do you really believe in people? Are you aware of your team's potential? Not their current ability, not their performance, their potential. Are you aware of what potential each person in your team has? And if you are, do you have a learning plan for your team? Now, not the learning plan in terms of the new products and processes that they have to learn, their own leadership development. Is there a learning plan that will help them to be better leaders? Are you developing them to be better leaders? Where do you stand on a scale of 10 for these 3 questions? And what does that number look like on a total possible score of 30? If you're done with these 2, then just say done in the chat box, and I want you to do a very quick activity right now with me. Okay, so let's see how many are done. Done. We have total score done. Only I see 3, 4 dones. Deepa done. Govind, Rahul. Okay, all right. So most of you are done. It seems now done. Fantastic. Now let us quickly make a list of people who are your directs. Can you quickly write down? If you have a big team, then write down maybe your core 5 people or 8 people who are under your span right now. Your direct reporters. And now in front of their name, are you able to assess their true potential, not the current ability? But if I were to invite you to rate their potential, what would that number be for each person? So if you have 5 names there, if you have, say, Sadik, Brajesh, Deepak, Shailesh, Jyoti, these are my reportees, each one of them, where do they stand on a scale of 10 in terms of their potential and not their current ability? What does that number look like? Now, if that number is less than 5 for anyone, then we need to question to what extent do we believe in that person? And what can I do to increase that level of belief in that person? Because until I believe in my people, I will not be able to develop them. Them empowerment is just a process. It's just a tick in the box. It's not a real thing. It will become a real thing only when I'm able to believe in my people's potential. And if it is more than 5, then I want you to see if you have been able to write down their strengths and created opportunities so that they can leverage on those strengths. Now listen to this carefully. It could also be a possibility that for them to leverage on their strengths, you do not have enough opportunities within your own team. Are you flexible as a leader and open as a leader to allow these people to play on their strengths, even if it means letting them go to another function. And these are your co-people, by the way. Are you at that level of leadership? We have 5 levels of leadership. I'm sure you know. I mean, that's another webinar we did a while back on what are the different levels of leadership. And level 5 is where you earn respect from people as who you are, like as a leader that you are. But in that entire process, you come to a level where you're able to let people go ahead because you are not able to give them enough opportunities. They are beyond what you can offer. Are you able to identify your people's potential to that extent? And if not, then I would want to invite you to do that. Do that for your core people and see what it does for your overall growth and your own success. All right, interesting exercise that we just did. Yeah, we have some numbers against people. Is there some action plan coming out of it? Just give me a yes. Are you getting some action plan? Okay, these are the 5 people I had in mind, and it looks like I need to work on 4 of them, 3 of them, 2 of them, and not on them, but really for them. I need to do something for them that I haven't consciously done so far. Is it coming out? Yes? Interesting. Sure thing. Need to further add on new learning. Fantastic. Certainly, yes, Rahul. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. All right. So let's move to the third barrier and see how to break job security. Job security is the biggest barrier, the insecurity that we have to just completely let go. How do we get rid of that? So I want you to answer this very powerful question. And the question is, what does power mean to you? We all love power. In fact, if there's a choice between money and power, many of us would go for power, because power just makes you feel great about who you are, right? It gives you the opportunity to add more, to do more. It just opens up more opportunities. So everyone wants power, right? But what does power really mean to you? What is power? So Blanchard breaks power into 5 very interesting segments. Okay, so he says that imagine this to be like a star, but it's tough for me to imagine it as a star because I don't think all 5 are equally important. For all of us, they're not really. For some of us, we enjoy 1 or 2 of these powers, and we probably don't. The other places are where we're not so powerful, or we don't feel that way. So one is position power, right? Your visiting card, your designation gives you the power. I'm the COO, I have power, no questions asked. Simple, position power. Second is a task power, which means my proximity to people who are influential. If I am reporting to business head, then I have that little task power to influence the business head with some information that I can share because of my proximity. So that's task power. Personal power is your own interpersonal ability, your own interpersonal skills. How good you are with your communication, your decision-making skills, managing conflicts, your interpersonal skills. That is your personal power. Your relationship power is the way you deal with people, how good your relationships are with people. You have this power to connect with people, to take people along, to connect with different types of people. And then there is knowledge power, your own technical understanding, your expertise, your know-how, the depth with which you understand the subject is so unchallenged and unbeatable that's where your power is. You feel so powerful because your power is knowledge. It could be a combination of you as well. So power means you're responsible and helps to take independent decisions and to achieve desired results. I'm reading a comment here. Okay, so I get that. So you're saying that, so being powerful means taking the responsibility for your own decisions and getting the desired results. All right, having power means one has control on others' actions. I would not say control, I will change that word to influence. So when we feel the need to control, we are always coming from some sense of insecurity. The need to control it, right? But when you are in charge, when you are influencing, then you are coming from a place where you are trying to create more space. You're trying to create more possibilities, and you're also bringing in more ownership, right? So let's just change that little word there. Yeah, words make a lot of difference. In fact, empowerment can come in with change of language. I'll probably leave that as a note for you guys in our feedback mail on some little shifts in the language that you can make when you talk to your team that can bring in a sense of more empowerment than otherwise. All right, so this is what power can look like. And so the question for you is, what does power really mean to you? What is your combination of power? And hence the second question, which is a subset of this, which means now that you know where your power lies, how do you use your power to help your team? So here I would encourage you to do this. If very honestly you've been able to put your hand on your heart and say that I think I'm stuck with some sense of insecurity, let me first applaud you for your courage, because it's not easy to accept things that don't sound good. They don't look cool. You know, a few things really look cool when you say it's my weakness. I lose patience, you know, that's my weakness. It's a cool weakness. It just makes you look like a hero, even though you're putting it as a weakness. So when you call out a real weakness as weakness, it takes courage. So it takes courage to say that I have some sense of insecurity. I feel like I'll be totally dispensable. I want to be indispensable, and so I'm holding back stuff, right? So here I want to invite you to look at maybe one person or two people in your team who you think have the potential to succeed. Can you start from there and create a plan for their success? And invest your time, effort, knowing, knowledge, resources to really pull this person up and get this person to their true potential. When you start tasting the success of building one leader, you will get used to this bad habit of building another one and then another one. And before you know, you have come out of this sense of insecurity and you've started feeling very comfortable in the knowing that the more you empower people, the more power you add to yourself. So I want to conclude this session here and come back to the room for your takeaways by saying that enlarging others makes you larger. Empowering others adds power to you, to your growth and your success. So this entire effort to empower others is a very selfish effort, because we are selfishly contributing to our own success by allowing people to take over our position so that we are ready for higher things, higher levels through which we can contribute even more. So let me conclude here. I'll stop sharing the screen. I want to come back to the room. Okay, I'll give you a very quick glimpse of what this looks like. And you will have this mind map with you in the mail that I will share along with the feedback form after the session. So don't worry about that. We started with barriers, being job security, change and self-worth. And we talked about a 5-step process to empower people, and then shared 3 methods of how we can truly empower by sharing knowledge, creating freedom within boundaries, and breaking the hierarchy, creating a flat structure. And then we self-reflected on how to break those barriers. So time for me to take a pause and for you all to take over the session, please, and tell me what's going on. What are you taking away? You can unmute yourself, or you could share in the chat box. I would encourage you to unmute. Yes, go with.
Yeah, hi Yukti. So I actually have a couple of people in my team who are like very good, and I think they are ready to take up my role. But again, the challenge for me is, or the thing with me is, I feel that I am not ready for the next level.
Wow. So first of all, let me congratulate you for that depth of understanding, and I mean it, Govind, because it takes a lot to be able to confess to that. Having said that, now that you know that you're not ready, you also know why you're not ready and what are the things that you need to feel more ready for the next level. Is that right?
That's correct. But somewhere I'm not getting that guidance or the mentoring from my next level.
Okay. So when it comes to mentoring, like how it is about parenting, we put a lot of pressure on the expectations that we have from our immediate line managers. Right? So I often relate leadership to parenting because I think they're closely related. Now, none of us really learn parenting. Stay with me for a bit, Govind. I'll connect this to your question. Okay.
Sure.
We become a parent and we feel blessed when we get there. Most of us are really wait for that moment when, you know, we're able to bring a new life and we are a parent, and, you know, it's a huge, huge blessing. But we don't learn parenting. Like, we just become a parent, and the next day I'm supposed to know what a mother is supposed to do, and I'm supposed to behave like a mother, and I'm supposed to be the best mother there ever was or will ever be. but without knowing what parenting really means. So we make our big and small mistakes and we slowly learn parenting. But in that process, we have created certain experiences that we can't go back on for our child, for our children. You with me? So they are now looking at us as role models. That if there has to be a parent, the parent should look like my parent. And hence we have certain issues and grudges with our own parents. Let's face it, okay? As much as we want to tell the whole world that my mom is the best mom and my dad is the best dad and my only superhero is my dad, which I say and I mean it. Yet I also have a list of things where I think my dad should have done better. Maybe I was disappointed with something I saw, or I was not okay with what I saw in action. And then those grudges stay with me without realizing that they were trying to do the best they could. And the same holds true for our leaders. I mean, they haven't learned leadership. They haven't gone through any structured program. They're trying to do the best they can, but they're limited with their own ability to do what you're expecting them to do. And sometimes with their own inability to even realize what more they need to learn. So when we are seeking mentorship, Govind, we should be very conscious about going beyond our line managers. You know, we should be looking at industry as a whole and keep our eyes and ears open on people who are influencing others, people who are doing a few things right. And I'm consciously saying few things because we all have a list of a few things we are not doing right, and it's a process and we learn and we evolve, but they're definitely doing something right. And so I would always encourage everyone to have multiple mentors. You should have more than 2-3 mentors in your life. You can look up to them and get their advice and never get influenced with just, you know, one version. So if you have identified that you need to be ready for the next level, and if you know what that those 3-4 things are, and if you know that the list is incomplete, there's more that you can add, look out for people in the industry and see how many more conversations you can have with people, and maybe you will find a mentor there who will take you in that direction.
Okay. Okay. What again, Yukti? Sorry. There's one more question. My question is, what should be my next step? I mean, I know I have a couple of resources who are ready to take up my role, and I strongly feel that if empowered, or if given that power and authority, they will definitely do better than me. But what is it for me now? Where should I concentrate, or what should be my next step?
Okay. So I think it will be great to do a SWOT at this point. I know SWOT is so exploited. I'm so scared to say SWOT because the moment you say SWOT, it takes you back to MBA days where we learned a lot of things and did nothing with it. Okay, no matter which college you passed out from, MBA is the most generic course ever. And we've learned a lot of things which we never practiced. But there is power in those models, in those concepts. It's just that we have not understood it right. There is a way to do SWOT. And if you do it right, you will be able to prepare a list of strengths that you want to leverage, and how those strengths are going to add to a level within your organization, if possible, that gives you an opportunity to add more value, become a part of a project or become a part of something being created that is more integral for the organization as a whole. So the more you align your efforts towards what is important for the organization and what is the key for them right now in terms of their next step forward, the more you're able to contribute, right? Your opportunity and ability to contribute is that much more. So are you able to somehow relate your strengths to the organizational goals and look for opportunities within the organization where you can add more value? It could mean picking up additional projects. It could mean looking at a higher designation, but I would not say necessarily so. What is that spot? What is that opportunity within the organization where using your strengths you can add more value? And once you have clarity on that, then it's a great time, Govind, to go back to your line manager for a discussion. Otherwise, you will land up asking that person, now tell me what to do, because I have upgraded my people. They can totally take over my job, and my presence will not be missed if I'm not around, because I've made them leaders and groomed them. But now what for me? That question needs to be put in front of your line manager with an answer from your end. And your line manager might add more to it. But get some clarity on what you think would be the next level for you, where you will create opportunities to learn more and contribute more. Does that answer to some extent?
Sure. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yes, we are a little beyond time. So I would encourage you to please look out for that email you will receive from me very soon, and please share your feedback and takeaways. Very quickly, someone wants to share is most welcome to share how was the session for you, and if you're getting late, let me not hold you back. Thank you so much for joining in. For those who can share their takeaways, please do so. And of course, visit our website, sbyacademy.in. We have some amazing leadership courses there for you all. I'm sure you will benefit from it even at your level. In fact, it's created for mid to senior management and business owners. It's called ULB, Upskilling Leadership Blueprint. I would love to welcome you to our community, and together we will learn more and do these sessions every Wednesday that we do for our only our community. Okay, any takeaways, any comments before you go ahead with your weekend? How was the session for you? Yeah, Deepak.
Session was good, Yukti, and I liked some of the concepts that you presented for team learning and team evaluation. So thanks for that.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you for always being there. I love your hunger to learn. You never miss any session, and I love that about you. Thank you.
Yeah, Yukti, Girish here.
Yes.
And this is my first session which I'm attending, and there are a lot to learn. Of course, the processes part, I used to follow, but today I learned that all these processes should be followed in a chronological order. So that is the learning today. That is the biggest learning for me.
Awesome.
Where I handle the sales team. So the chronological order is the most important thing I learned. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Girish. Thank you.
Hi, Yukti.
Yes, Amit.
Yeah, so it is a wonderful blueprint on empowerment, very systematic and method based, which can be, done in practice. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for joining us today, Amit. Thank you so much to all of you for taking time out on a weekend. Means a lot. Shailesh, you're back for the session. Thank you so much for coming back. Sadik Khatri, so good to see you here. It's been so long that I saw you. Not that I can see you, but your presence here means a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to give a couple of points on this.
Sure, please.
Yeah, so I think one of the critical takeaways was around self-reflection. Because for us to be more effective, we need to know more of ourselves in terms of what our working style is, what our leadership style is, how we're interacting with people. And one more aspect which I think is very critical is the one where you talked about your one-page self-appraisal and so on. Because normally what happens is when an appraisal process happens, a 360-degree loop does not take place in a lot of cases. So we generally tend to give feedback about people without taking the reverse feedback about ourselves. And it is also true, and it happens with us also. It normally becomes a one-way traffic unless and until we have a leader who takes the pain of asking for feedback and how he or she can help us in doing our job better. So I think that 360-degree feedback is very important for all organizations, and self-reflection is very important so that we know how we are progressing in the direction of making a positive impact. And if we are not in a position to groom people, to guide and help them or mentor them, then we are really not effective just by doing our work. Because the other example which you gave about 75 or 85% being interpersonal and the remaining one only being technical. So if we have to move forward, then we have to make that impact, which will not come just by demonstration of our technical skills, because that is what we're paid for. But organizations will not promote people beyond a point until and unless they see strong interpersonal skills and mentorship skills and all of that. So I think those things are very important for any leadership position. So these are, I think, key takeaways for me.